Hello. Good gravy. Today was a long day. But the good news is that it's Fata Morgana Day. Hi, welcome back to the house in Fata Morgana. Gosh, this shirt is really noisy, isn't it? I need to change shirts. So last time we revealed the truth behind the door of door 4. We found the truth of the maid's identity, as well as ourselves, the protagonist, who is Michelle. Door 5 is the truth of what door 4, what truths. Door 4 had some truths to it, but it's not the full truth. So we need to find that real truth with Michelle and Giselle splitting their points of view here. If you didn't notice last time, you may notice this time that Giselle's points of view are always represented with these red roses on the side, whereas Michelle is represented with green. And those are the colors of the opposite's eyes, which is really sweet. This is going to be a slightly shorter stream, but here we go. Oh, very important. First, trigger warnings. Trigger warning for knives, verbal abuse, and sexual assault. Nothing will be viscerally super shown on that last one, but it will be talked about at length. So please be ready for that. Okay, here we go. I didn't really understand Michelle, but that was probably because we were still essentially strangers. Having been sent to the mansion as reparation for my mistakes, I wasn't sure who I might find there, but I was tentatively convinced he wasn't a terrible person. He didn't do anything to me, except stay away. Michelle spent most of his time in his chambers, which she had told me to never enter under any circumstances, so we rarely encountered one another in the halls. For that reason, I made an effort to be kind and cheerful on the sporadic occasions we did cross paths. I figured if I kept that up long enough, he would eventually warm up to me. And as the new housemates, being able to enjoy our time together was obviously preferable to the alternative. If I did manage to break the ice, I hoped we would be able to do some talking. About the mansion, about him, about me. I just had to keep working at it. Michelle didn't need me to take care of him. He handled his own day-to-day needs and activities by himself, and in fact, he didn't ask me for anything. An aristocrat who had no use for his servants. I hadn't met anyone like him before. Alright then. That meant about all I could do was clean. I wasn't sure how his room looked, but the rest of the house was, quite frankly, an absolute disaster. The dust was so heavy it was obvious it hadn't been touched in years. Let's get started. It couldn't be healthy to live in these conditions, so I set out to clean each room and house one by one. That said, it wasn't going to be an easy task. Not because I was bad at cleaning. In fact, I considered myself quite good at it. But because it was near impossible to find all the dust and grime that needed cleaning under the flickering light of a candle. I can't understand how anyone sane can live in this dark. What's wrong with him? Maybe he's actually a vampire. God, wouldn't that be something? I can see it now. Him sneaking out every night to suck the blood of pretty girls. Priceless. That means I'm in trouble. Look at me, Miss One-Woman Comedy Show here. Yep. If I am able to get him to warm up to me, though, maybe that'll give me a little more room to make some changes. Like opening some windows. No light and no fresh air. No thank you. Anyway, I set the candlestick down, pulled over a chair to stand on, and started wiping down the shelf. The chair's legs seemed to be uneven, as it wobbled slightly beneath me. So many books. I wonder, do they all belong to him? I knew parchment was expensive, so it was rather astonishing seeing this many stacks of it in one place. There were even some books with bulky, extravagantly decorated covers. He does come from an esteemed family. I'd spent enough time at his family's home. There was a constant bustle of servants and guests. The exact opposite of what this mansion was like. Why had he left his home? What had he done to be sent all the way out here to this remote mansion with a less than savory reputation? Need to be careful not to overstep my bounds. I am a servant now. A servant. But once the thought had crossed my mind, I couldn't get it out. I'd always had a bad tendency to chase my curiosities as soon as they struck, pushing to scratch the itch no matter how much my actions annoyed others. I couldn't do that here, though. I was simply a servant, and if I got on Michel's bad side, I risked getting thrown out. I wonder what kind of books he's got in here. So I attempted to distract myself. I grabbed one of the books and attempted to pull it out. But the strings binding the parchment must have gotten tangled at the back. Whoa! Whoa! Because the books on either side tilted back with it. And then the entire row came crashing down on top of me. Ow! Oh, for Christ's sake. I had fallen off the chair, and a downpour of books was still coming down on me. A mountain of dust with it. Seriously?
What are you doing?
What? Suddenly, Michel was there, looking down on me from a little ways away. There was, as usual, not much I could read from his expression, but I could hear a vague trace of exasperation in his voice. I was doing some cleaning, and...
Impressive work.
I'm usually better than this. It's just so dark. Mistakes should be expected. I really think we should open some windows, Master. Get some light, some air flowing through here.
I never asked you to clean anything. You did this entirely yourself.
But there's so much dust. It can't be good for you.
I am perfectly healthy. I don't see the problem.
Had he even seen himself? No way someone that skinny was perfectly healthy.
You look like you have something to say.
You can make out my face in this darkness? I wanted to be useful, and cleaning is about all I can do here, so,
I was sensing something else, but all right.
He let out a sigh, stepped over toward the pile of books, and then reached out his hand down for me. I suddenly felt a pang of embarrassment about the fact that I was still splayed out on the floor, but I raised my hand up to take his, only for him to pick up a book instead. You could at least help me up!
You have legs. This is the real Michel, everybody. What do we think? I love him so much.
He said, casually returning the book to the top shelf. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he was a terrible person. So, Master, are all these books yours?
Giselle asked, not a trace of remorse visible on her face despite having made a mess of the room she was supposedly trying to clean. I gave a curt nod.
Really? That's impressive! Must have been hard work getting them all in here, huh? There's got to be 100 books here. You could fill a whole carriage, at least. It's like you've got your own personal library.
She had been pouting only a few moments earlier, but her smile was back in short order. Her jade eyes were like little balls of curiosity, glittering in the faint candlelight. I was not particularly fond of overly expressive, rather overly curious women. Did they not care that they trampled uninvited into other people's personal spaces? Or were they not even aware that their actions were invasive? I averted my gaze from hers. I receive one roughly every month.
Ah, I see. Oh, wait.
She turned back toward the shelves. I presumed she understood the implications of what I had just said. Of the fact that there were nearly 100 tomes here, and I received only one a month.
Huh.
Giselle fell silent. I couldn't blame her if she thought my circumstances, or my family, or my life bizarre. But I didn't care what she thought of me. In fact, it was to my advantage for her to become uncomfortable. I just needed her to stay quiet and keep her nose out of my business. There's more than I thought. I said not to her, but to myself. I had no reason to count the passage of time anymore. Only the books served as record of how long I had been in here.
121!
What?
There are 121 books! 10 years in 1 month!
You were counting? I thought she had just sheepishly gone quiet. What an inscrutable woman.
You've been in the mansion for that long? All by yourself?
The truth was, there had been times when I wasn't alone, but Giselle had no need to know of that. You already know the answer. A look of pity formed in Giselle's eyes. Enough. I never asked for her sympathy. I am here by choice.
You mean you weren't banished here?
No restraint, this woman. No. I came here of my own volition. I didn't care enough to elaborate, though. Picking another book up off the floor, I brushed the dust off its cover. It was a gaudily decorated tome.
That's a very fancy book, isn't it?
But apparently, Giselle was unable to take a hint.
What's it about?
I let out a sigh and opened to no page in particular, sticking the book out toward her. She was a servant, and a woman. There was no way she could read.
Let's see here. This land is hardly suitable for cultivation. It can only produce over-sour grapes. I would probably get more out of it if I tore down the fields and made it into a market. Sounds like a lord's diary.
You can read? I was caught slightly off guard. It was rare for a noble woman to be able to read and write, let alone a servant. Was she truly what she claimed to be?
I had someone teach me. So, is this book any interesting?
It's dull, worthless trap. I can't imagine why anyone thought it was worth binding.
Tough crowd. But it's not very often you get to see a lord's diary. I am rather curious what kinds of things he griped about.
Lord or king, what value was there in another's grumbling? There was no knowledge contained within that book. Just emotions, unsightly scribbles. There was nothing more exhausting in this world than being emotional.
Fucking Lord, Michelle, damn.
If you want to read it, be my guest.
That wasn't my intention, but alright. Once I've got the whole mansion cleaned, I'll read it.
I told you, you don't have to clean.
Oh, I've got an idea, Master. If you're interested, maybe we could read together?
Did you hear a word I just said? It's dull, worthless tripe.
Still, you might see it differently if you read it with someone else. And I'm sure there are some books here that you would enjoy, Master.
You're wasting your time. The suspicion and restraint budding in between us was trite and insignificant at that point. She was still smiling, after all. If I had been able to maintain that distance, then perhaps I wouldn't have ended up hurting her.
Oh, Michelle. It had been a little under 2 weeks since I had moved in with Michelle. Though we lived in the same house, we rarely saw each other. On unlucky days, I wouldn't see him at all. I wasn't sure if he ate in his room or our schedules were simply misaligned, but we never had any meals together. Perhaps he was deliberately avoiding me. That has to be it. I know servant and master don't usually eat at the same table, but even so, he could be a little less obvious about it. Am I really that much of a nuisance?
No, Giselle, you're fine.
I'm not doing anything inappropriate, am I? I'm being pleasant and sociable, aren't I? I haven't given him any reason to not like me, I think. I hope. He had never been very enthusiastic about my staying here, but I hadn't been given a choice. I had been sent here by his family. Besides... No, out with the negative thoughts. Gotta stay positive. Yeah, he hasn't tried to chase me up yet. I just haven't broken the ice. I had to stay positive, optimistic, happy thoughts, and be myself. As long as I kept working at it, with enough time, Michelle would surely come around and not be so distant. I've got a goal, so let's get to work. First I make supper, then I ask him to have it with me. Gotta be proactive when it comes to the reclusive types. Alright, here goes. Or where would go? We're almost out of supplies. Oh, so much for that. The cellar was where the non-perishable food was stored. Dried foods, smoked meats, cheeses, and a small scattering of root vegetables. Looking at this makes me feel like a soldier holding down a castle's fortifications. Had Michelle really gone 10 years on nothing but this? I would have raised the white flag long ago. He said he hadn't left the mansion at all in those 10 years. I assume he at least goes out to get supplies, right? Running out of food is kind of a life or death matter. I can't believe he hasn't set foot outside at once and even...
What are you babbling on about?
Oh, no, you overheard me.
I assumed you were talking to someone.
Huh? Does anyone else live here, Master? I haven't seen anyone.
It is just the two of us. Alive, anyway. Whoa! Okay.
You mean there are ghosts?
Something of the sort.
There you go again with the jokes. I'm not a child. You're not going to trick me like that.
There are adults who believe in such things.
I suppose, but I don't really believe in ghosts or demons or curses or any of that. The church just tries to convince people they're real so they can squeeze more money out of them.
Controversial, but it had to be said. She makes a good point. Am I going to have to turn you over to the church, you blasphemer?
No. I pray every day, honest.
I don't particularly care either way. I'm returning to my chambers.
What? Already? You didn't, come down for food?
I only came down because I heard voices.
A moment, please, just wait a second.
What?
Our stores are almost empty. What do you normally do when you need more food? I'll happily accompany you on a trip to the market.
Already? That was fast.
There are two of us. I really don't need that much, do I? In the dim light, it was difficult to make out Michelle's expression, but I thought I could see a tinge of annoyance on his face. Hold your ground, Giselle. You said you wanted to get closer to him. Is that a parsnip?
Michelle was holding a tangled... Oh, whoops. Whoa, I was like... It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm not tired. What are you talking about?
Michelle was holding a tangled ball of roots. The reason I asked was because the parsnip looked like it was on the verge of total decomposition.
See? There's still food.
He then handed it to me. Wait! You want to eat that? It's clearly seen better days. You're going to get sick. Or are you telling me you can survive on rotten vegetables?
Of course I will need it. I just figured you were hardy enough to survive.
What do you think I am? No, he is definitely a jerk.
That's my Michelle. Or that the resulting diarrhea might reduce your appetite. I don't remember this line. What an asshole.
You're kidding, right? You can't be serious. Anyway, we should bury that outside. Then we can go purchase fresh supplies.
I told you, I don't go outside.
Then how do you... Huh? A visitor? Who could it be?
Perfect timing. You're a servant. Make yourself useful and go retrieve the package. If it's not a delivery but a wanderer, chase them off.
What? Package? Master? Hold on a second. What are you talking about? He's gone. What kind of delivery is he expecting? Michel stood there, unmoving, veiled in shadow. He glanced over at me and threw his gaze to the front door. At his command, I raised the bar, pulling open the door. After nearly 2 weeks inside, the light from the setting sun almost blinded me. The world went white, my head pounding. After a few moments of intense blinking, my eyes acclimated themselves to the evening sunlight. There was no one outside, only a crate easily large enough to fit a child. Is this the package? Master? I turned back to face Michel, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Though it seemed more like he was avoiding looking at the light than at me. He's starting to seem more and more like a vampire. Not that I believe in vampires, of course. Regardless, I pray there's nothing bad in here. That's heavy! Master, could I get some help? Gee, thanks. I am a servant, admittedly, but this is a lot to ask of just one girl. A little help would sure be nice.
Once it's inside, close and bar the door.
He said dispassionately, his head still turned toward the darkness. As you wish, Master. Once the door was shut, I found myself sucked back into a world of darkness. It hadn't even been 2 weeks. The lack of light was beginning to become my normal. The outside world growing farther and farther away. Being holed up in here is definitely not good for me. I should go for a walk sometime. Maybe plant some flowers or vegetables. Yeah, I like that idea. Maybe I can grow that old tangle of roots into some fresh parsnip. What else do we have to plant? It'd be great if there were some flower seeds.
What are you doing? Open the box, now.
As you wish, Master. Oh, there's food inside? In the box was a burlap sack filled with berries, fruit, vegetables, and smoked meats, as well as an assortment of breads, fruits, and wine. Aside from the fruit and bread, everything else was the same as what Michel kept in the cellar. Buried beneath the burlap sack was a single book. One book a month. He really hasn't gone outside in 10 years.
It appears you have begun to grasp the situation.
Yeah. Why? This was delivered by someone from your house, Master, wasn't it?
A servant, I assume.
Why would they leave without saying anything?
No one wants to talk to a cursed man. In the past, they would occasionally check in on me, but that hasn't happened recently.
You think you're cursed?
Ah, right. You don't believe in curses. Then come up with your own explanation. An excuse for them to want to stay away from me. That, for example, I killed someone. Or maybe that I'm insane. Look at that face. I love him so much. What a troll.
I couldn't.
Regardless, I am not normal. Bring the food down to the cellar. The book to the library. You are, of course, free to refuse and run back off into the woods.
I'll do it.
All right. Then you take care of that.
Hey.
What is it?
I just noticed there's something else in here. It's wrapped in cloth. What could it be? Ooh, a painting! For you to hang up somewhere in the house, I presume. It's so dark I can't see it very well, but I'm sure it's...
Don't touch that!
What? Michel, who had kept his distance from me until that point, suddenly marched over and ripped the painting from my grasp. Master! His face was twisted into a look I had never seen him make before. Was it indignation? Disgust? Hatred? Panic? I couldn't tell, but there was more than enough negative pressure to cause me to flinch back. Is that painting perhaps, something important?
A landscape painting.
He muttered under his breath, the tension melting away from his face. I was left looking at his usual blank, impenetrable expression. But his eyes were still fixated on the picture, staring at it unblinkingly.
Why a landscape painting? Some kind of passive-aggressive message? It's not of anywhere nearby. Did they travel somewhere? Well, it's not of that girl, so that's an improvement.
Master?
Oh, you're still here?
Still here? Of course I'm still here! Who do you think you asked to take care of the package? What's with you, just running over and snatching the painting from me? You scared me. Could you maybe explain yourself? What's so special about that painting?
I don't believe that's any of your business.
None of my... Of course it is! You ripped it out of my hands like I was some kind of thief! I have a right to know what that was all about. And maybe an apology while you're at it. You told me to open the box, so I did, and then all of a sudden you're angry!
We are not equals. Do not mistake yourself for my friend. You have a right to know. You have no such thing.
You don't have to be rude.
I'll say it again. Leave if you don't like it here. I never asked for you to be here. It was your wish.
My wish? Are you out of your mind? I never asked for this. I never wished for it. Who in their right mind would want to be sent to some house in the middle of nowhere? Who would ever want to go through that? Calm down, Giselle. You can't get angry. You're right. That is what I wanted. But I never wanted to make you mad or for us to argue like this. I just wanted to get to know you better, to get closer to you. I mean, it would make things smoother for the both of us. It would make living together more enjoyable for us.
Listen carefully. This is very important for you to understand. Do not try to involve yourself with me. Do not go probing around for information. And if you can't do that, leave.
Completely shut out. The glare he was giving me and the standoffish aura he was emanating were reflected in his tone of voice. Why? Why did he try to push me away like that?
It seemed Giselle really didn't know much about me. Despite being sent here from my house, she was unaware of the monthly deliveries, as well as the reason why I lived in the mansion all by myself. Why, though, would they not have told her anything? Why had she been sent here left completely in the dark? Giselle looked up at me, fear and bewilderment in her eyes, though I thought I could see a glint of suspicion beneath it all. Like her true feelings were bubbling to the surface. Everyone had darkness in them they had kept hidden. No one was exactly who they appeared to be. She was undoubtedly thinking, I'm not here because I want to be. I knew from the moment I first saw her that her bubbly, sweet affect was all a facade. And she thought I was dense enough not to realize. She was no different than anyone else. What I didn't understand, though, was why she refused to leave no matter how hard I pushed. What was she hiding beneath that innocent-looking face? What was she thinking? What did she carry on her shoulders? Everyone is hiding something, deceiving those around them. I had to figure out what she really was. May I ask you something?
Yes?
On the day you arrived, You said you made a teeny tiny mistake while working at my family's house. Tell me about that. What did you do at the Bollinger estate? In that moment, brief though it was, her disposition wavered. Fear? Terror? No, perhaps anger. I couldn't tell. Nevertheless, it was abundantly clear that that was a subject she had no interest in me breaching, and so she had borne her fangs. The smile she had donned was now visibly forced.
It's nothing you need concern yourself with, Master. I promise it was an insignificant little thing.
She couldn't say. Why couldn't she tell me? What had she done there? What did this woman know about that house? What did she know about me? What was concealed beneath that smile of hers? I am the master of this house, and you are a servant. And still you refuse to tell me?
Like I said, it's nothing. There's no reason to bother you with a mere servant's personal blunders, Master.
What are you hiding?
I am not hiding anything.
Then you should be able to tell me exactly what you did at the Bollinger estate.
Like I said,
tell me. Tell me.
You won't tell me a thing about yourself, and you demand others tell you about themselves. Here you are practically threatening me. Demanding I tell you something I don't want to talk about. And yet you still haven't told me anything about the painting.
Oh, so I was right. You do have something to hide. How many times must I repeat myself? We are not equals. I don't care if it's insignificant or something you don't want to talk about. But I'm ordering you to tell me. A trifling blunder would not get someone sent to live with a cursed man in a house spoken of so unfavorably. Whatever she had done at the Bollinger estate, that had to be something to do with why she was here. If she truly hadn't done anything, then she had something to gain from this place, or possibly from me. And if that was the case, I had to get her to talk.
Me?
Giselle's eyes were open wide. I recognized the look she was giving me. I knew very well what that gaze meant.
You're an abomination!
It was the same as them. Fear, contempt, revulsion, repulsion. The way she acted, the way she spoke, it was exactly the same. You're no different. I made her uncomfortable. I made her afraid. She thought I was unpleasant. She thought I was despicable. She thought I was an abomination. In a frenzy, I grabbed her by the shoulders, clamping down far more powerfully than I had meant to.
Ow, stop!
Her face, contorted in pain, morphed into someone else's. Who was I directing my anger at? Where was this rage being aimed? Who were you calling an abomination?
What?
Tell me, who? The black fur bubbling up from within me knew no end. That girl, she ridiculed me. She denied my identity with her glare. I couldn't escape from that phantom, that reality.
What are you? I never called you a... No! Get away from me! Get your hands off me!
Giselle's scream echoed in the entrance hall, rattling my eardrums. She frantically smacked my arms aside, and then I came back to my senses. She was standing a little ways away, breathing heavily, arms wrapped tight around her body, glowering at me, showing her opposition to my touching her. Enlightening.
No. You just, you startled me, that's all.
Some servant you are, telling your master not to touch you.
I am, right, I have, I'm, allergic to people. It's a very, very unique condition, I hear. I mean, can you believe that? See, you know how some people get all red and itchy when they touch a dog or a cat? It's that, except for people,
So?
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I beg your forgiveness.
Why don't you speak your mind?
What?
This is what's going through your mind right now. I have nothing to apologize for.
No, that's not.
I can somewhat sympathize with your plight, being made to apologize even though you're hurting. I raise my hand against you first, after all.
Then you forgive me?
Sympathy does not equate to forgiveness. Now you take care of the package. I'm heading back to my chambers. What is it?
You're not going to make me leave after what I just did?
No, I'm not. For it would seem I can make you leave on your own whenever I so please. Besides, I had yet to learn what she had done. It would be exceedingly difficult to get the story from her own mouth, which left me with one option: to write a letter to my mother, as much as the very thought revolted me.
Michelle.
He's the one allergic to people. TBH.
Several days had passed since the package arrived. The end of my 3rd week living in the mansion was drawing near. Michel wasn't getting any friendlier either. Shocker. He continued to either snub or bluntly dismiss me whenever we crossed paths. I didn't understand why he acted that way around me, but there was little point in asking when he seemed to think there was little point in talking to me at all. Although at first I had been sure there was some way to get him to warm up to me, the more time I spent in the mansion, the more my willpower began to feel like it was at its breaking point. I could tell myself to stay positive until I was blue in the face, but it would only work for so long. The one pretty place in the whole house. I'm glad he hasn't covered it back up. Blue moonlight shone quietly through the stained glass window, faintly illuminating some of the room. I hadn't noticed until now, but the room with the stained glass window appeared to be modeled after a chapel. Rows of pews faced the window, below which sat what used to be a pulpit. There was very little left of it, though, and an awkward length of silver was mounted to the pulpit's front face. What was, I assumed, formerly a cross. Upon further reflection, rather than facing the window, the pews seemed to be pointed at the pulpit, or perhaps the cross hanging on it. I wasn't sure why there would be a chapel in a mansion, but I had no one to ask about it. For a house of this size, a statue of Christ or the Virgin Mary seems more appropriate. It's a very well-made chapel, at any rate. I doubted Michel had it built for himself. There would be no reason for him to cover the window if that was the case. Nor had I ever seen him come to pray. He doesn't seem like one to believe in God. God. I'm not even sure if God really existed, then surely the world would be a much more pleasant, peaceful place. No unfair disparities on money or power. No senseless misfortune. I certainly wouldn't have found myself here either. But God was evidently quite fond of giving mankind trials, so he would probably tell me with a straight face that this was one too. Or perhaps we simply had a false impression of him, and he didn't actually give us anything. He merely sat back and watched from somewhere far, far away. It wasn't his job to bring peace to the world or ensure our laws were fair. That was all mankind's responsibility. What is God? What are angels? I have no idea. Maybe the Bible has answers. Why should I pray to someone so far away? How do I know my prayer is even getting there? But still, it's not like I have any other options. Don't you worry. It'll all work out, promise. I already know where I'm going to work. It's a really prominent noble house, way out of reach of some small-time merchants like us. You never know, this could be my big break. Oh, I'm just kidding. Don't look so worried. It'll be just fine, honestly. I'll make enough money for us to get back on our feet. Oh, for goodness sake, I can handle it. Leave everything to me. You just wait. I'll make our family into something you can be proud of. I'll be fine. Yeah, say bye to Mom for me. I probably won't be home for a while. What? You're afraid I'm gonna make some careless mistake? I'm not that airheaded. I can be a refined and elegant young lady. Those nobles won't even know what to believe anymore. If you don't believe me, how about I give you a little taste? How are you doing this fine morning, master? Your morning beverage is ready, prepared with the utmost of care. See, how about that? Not bad, huh? What? You really think it sounded forced? I was the daughter of a merchant who ran a shop on the capital's main street. My father had passed away in a plague, so it was just me, my mother, and my older sister. It would be a lie to say business was doing well. We struggled to squeak by day to day after taxes. But we couldn't just abandon the shop and leave the capital either. So we tried to make the best of what we were able to take in between the three of us. Then my sister fell in love with a moderately well-off aristocrat. Both my mom and I were supportive of her and her desire to marry. But their union almost fell apart because she was not suitable for him. Merchants were hardly the lowest class. What we lacked instead was wealth. We needed another source of money, beyond what the shop took in. If only we had money, my sister could get married. If only we had money, my mom wouldn't have to work so hard. If only we had money. It was then that someone from the distinguished Bollinger estate approached me. He said they were in need of Abigails and would love to have me. He said that if I agreed to work for them, the Bollinger estate would take care of my family. Generally speaking, noble houses took Abigails from other, lower-ranked noble houses. It was unthinkable for someone of my status to receive such an offer. So I took it as a one-in-a-lifetime chance and accepted the offer. I just pray that nothing bad happens to my sister, and that Mom is getting enough money to live comfortably. That's all I can do. They're nobility. They have plenty of money. Enough to spare some. The light shining through the stained glass window began to grow murky, fading into blackness. It felt like a message from on high that no, my prayers would not be answered. The bluish-white illumination shining down on me disappeared as clouds blocked the moon. Oh, come on. You don't even want to look at a sullied woman like me? Oh, for heaven's sake. I never asked to end up like this. They're nobility. They have plenty of money. Enough to spare some. Come on. You don't even want to look at a silly woman like me? Oh, for heaven's sake. I never asked to end up like this.
Giselle was sitting at one of the pews in the room with the stained glass window. Just looking at her, you might have thought she was offering a prayer. But the words coming from her mouth were anything but prayerful. They were filled with resentment. They have plenty of money. A sullied woman. And then I never asked to end up like this. So this is what's beneath that facade. Most likely, money's what she's after. All I need to do now is confirm my suspicions with them. Just what awful secrets will I uncover? I gave Giselle, sitting in the pew with her head drooped, a cursory glance before leaving the chapel. I had somewhere else to be. You little liar, you do go outside. The bitterly cold outside air felt like dozens of needles flowing into my lungs. It had been so long since I stepped beyond the mansion's walls. A thick mist canopied into the night sky, blocking out the moonlight. Naturally, the heavens did not rejoice at my leaving the house. It had been 10 years since I had seen the mansion from the outside. Okay, I guess you don't lie. That's fine. And it hadn't changed one bit. A gloomy scar upon the earth, shrouded in darkness. Hardly the kind of place someone would enthusiastically approach. Nevertheless, it was better than that house. Yes? Who is it? Michel. What? Michel Bollinger? Just one moment. I'll be right there. Come in. It's a humble abode, but make yourself at home. Wow, I must say this is rather unexpected. Just one word and I would have been up there in a heartbeat. And how was I supposed to do that? I am regrettably fresh out of carrier pigeons. Right, yes. My apologies. This man, living in a small cottage not far from the mansion, had been hired by the Bollinger family. His job, to watch over me. That said, we never actually interacted. He was tasked with keeping track of whether I was still alive, and whether I remained in the mansion. The monthly package from my family was delivered to him, which he then passed on to me. It was insipidly convoluted, but it was indicative of how much they wanted to avoid anyone learning about me. Well then, what can I do for you? The manservant was visibly rattled. Afraid, too. But not because of the difference in our social ranks. I had a pretty good idea of what he'd been told about me. He was afraid of me. Or more specifically, my curse. People fear that which they cannot comprehend. Not just children. Adults as well. They fear demons, witches, and curses. Anything impure or not of this world. But I had long since gotten used to being viewed as such. It didn't sadden me. It didn't disappoint me. It didn't pain me. Some things were too foolish to concern yourself over. Though it certainly doesn't make me feel good, either. I was, on some level, annoyed. That woman's appearance at the mansion had created ripples in my once tranquil life. So before I got into the real reason for my visit, I decided to take out a bit of my frustration. Raise your head. There's no need to be afraid. I don't know what you've been told, but I promise I don't bite. How rude of me. You were right, my sincerest apologies. Your job is to keep watch over me. If the mere sight of me has you trembling, what will you do if I try to run? I will have little trouble escaping. That would be quite unfortunate. What would I ever tell your mother? I'm not sure that would end well at all. You could lose everything you've been paid so far. In fact, you might be lucky to get out with your life. Surely your mother would not. You are aware of who you're dealing with, right? Michel, the cursed youngest son of the Bollinger family, who made a pact with the devil. I don't need a blade to take your life. You wouldn't even make it back to report anything. Have mercy, Lord Michel. Please, do not leave the mansion. Please, spare me! Only joking. So, I love Michel. What an asshole. But I love him so much. Oh yeah, it's that time again. It's ASMR time, baby. Good shit. What? I don't have the power to kill by way of curse. The man fell silent, but the look on his face said, "You are cursed, though, aren't you? Once someone's got an idea planted in their head, it's nigh impossible to get rid of it. I'm so cursed that anyone can see it. that I need to be locked away in a dark mansion. I'm here because I had a question for you, not to warn you that I plan to run away.
A question? For me?
Yes. Approximately 3 weeks ago, a black-haired woman came to the mansion. Tell me what you know about her.
I was told there would be an Abigail coming, but that's all. I don't know anything else about her. I swear, that's all I know. I haven't been told anything else.
I believe you. I never thought they would tell you anything.
Right.
He had been hired to observe me, but that's all he was. A hired hand. He wouldn't be privy to the Bollinger family's internal affairs. Take this.
A letter?
I need you to deliver it to my mother.
You could have just left it in the box from this month's package, and I would have collected it when I dropped off the next one.
I am in urgent need of information. Will you do this for me?
Yes. Why, yes, absolutely. I'll fetch a delivery boy tomorrow morning.
Much appreciated. Good night.
You too. Do take care. Lord Michel?
Yes?
Is it true that you don't have...
Would you like me to sew your mouth shut so you can never open it again?
Not at all. My sincerest apologies, Lord Michel. That was horribly disrespectful. Good night.
Cursed I most certainly am.
Oh, I forgot to turn off my heater. God damn it. Hang on just a second. Alright. Sorry about that. I forgot. Professional streamer.
My mother's response arrived just 10 days later. The delivery boy must have pushed his horse quite hard. It was almost exactly a month after Giselle had moved in. And shortly thereafter, on a bone-chilling night, everything came crashing down. The rift between us grew deeper, and the wall between us impossibly high. When I lay bare, the scars in her chest, and mercilessly plunged my knife into them. I just want to remind anybody who might have jumped in halfway to just skip back to the beginning of the stream really fast to check the trigger warnings before proceeding. Thank you. Anyway. How did we get to this point? I hate everything. My spirits were getting darker and darker, like they were slowly sinking into a deep morass. I had been at the mansion for a month, and every day since felt twice as long as it should have. I'd been optimistic, at first. I'd even had a little hope that me and Michel could get along together. But it hadn't taken long for that hope to be shattered, and the cheer locked away inside me. We lived in the same house, but we never spoke anymore. On the few occasions we did cross paths, he just gave me a cold glare and nothing more. Scorn and suspicion in his eyes. Whenever he looked at me like that, it felt as though my throat was being constricted,
like I was deep underwater and running out of air. Like my very presence in the world was a crime. I never could have imagined just how agonizing constant rejection was. I started despising others, despising myself, despising the world. Convinced there was no one who could set me free. I considered running away from everything, rather than live like this another day. But I would have done so long ago if that were actually an option. If they found out I had fled, that I had acted outside their wishes, my mom and sister would pay. I had succeeded in allowing my sister to get married, and my mom to live comfortably. I had given them happiness. I couldn't take that away from them again. Not after what I had to go through to do it. No, cut that out. Getting way too depressing, Giselle. Pull yourself together. That's not who you are. Be positive. The negativity didn't only come from my interactions with Michelle either. No, there seemed to be some kind of terrible presence within the mansion that twisted people's hearts. The mansion was, in fact, a bit of a local legend, which I had been informed about before being sent here. People claimed that it was cursed, and that an evil witch had lived in it for many, many years. Michel joked that he was the witch, but I didn't believe him. I'm not usually one to believe in magic or curses at all, but being here so long, I can't help but wonder. Anyway, things can't go on like this. If I was to remain in this house, the situation needed to improve. A lot. I was going to lose my mind if things kept up as they were. I was ready to give up once, but I'm not going to try closing the distance between us again. If I could get him to open up even the tiniest bit, then maybe that would make living here a little easier. I wasn't going to try to make us best friends or anything. Just repair our relationship enough that being around each other wasn't torturous. I've got my work cut out for me. How do I even begin that conversation? Heck, what is that conversation even going to be about? Maybe I should just hold off, do it another day. No, I've made up my mind to do this, so I should get to it quickly. The longer I wait, the worse things are going to get. And eventually there won't be any fixing anything. We need to talk. We need to be in the same room for more than 10 seconds, and we need to get to know each other. He needs to know that he is not the reason I have something to hide. Okay.
Let's go for it, girl. Let's do this. Let's do it. Befriend Michelle.
I made my way to Michelle's chambers, which he had told me to stay away from. My stride was slow and ponderous, but at the very least I did my best to keep some semblance of a smile on my face.
That's strong, girl. He treated you like shit. He's a little shitty boy. I love him, though. But he's still a little shitty boy. Being a brat.
This is the one time where I'd really like to have someone give me a little nudge. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay. Pardon, Master? There's something I'd like to talk to you about. Master? I guess he's not here. The door wasn't locked.
Bad girl, Giselle.
As was the rest of the house, his room was shrouded in darkness. The only light came from the candle in my hand. Master? Are you there, Master? I guess I missed him. It's probably best if I don't stick around for long. He's already got a less than stellar impression of me. I don't want to imagine what'll happen if he thinks I've been snooping through his room. Yeah, I should get out of here. I spun around on my heels, taking a step toward the door, when I caught sight of an object draped in a black sheet. I knew I had to get out of there as quickly as possible, but I was intrigued by that object. Something he had kept hidden in a room I was forbidden to enter. Maybe it was a clue to discovering Michelle's secrets. I reached my hand down to look toward the object, knowing good and well I shouldn't. Was it because I wanted to learn more about him? Was it because I wanted to tear down the veil he hid behind? Or was it the whispers of the witch? What do we have here? I pulled off the sheet, revealing a framed painting of what appeared to be a noblewoman with porcelain white skin. What stood out about her, though, was the woman's hair was as pale as her skin. And then, I noticed something else. Wide gashes ravaged the canvas, damaging her face beyond repair. What the? I imagine it had once been a painting of a beautiful woman, but there was hardly a trace of that left. The only feeling it inspired anymore was a deep chill. This damage was not accidental. It was deliberate, angry, and the contempt emanating from within the frame was stifling. Thick, suffocating blackness seeped into me. Why would anyone? She was surely a most beautiful woman. Angelic, even. A storm of questions assaulted me. Who was she? Why had her face been carved up? Why had the painting been covered? What had happened? Who could have? There's only one person who could have done this. Michelle. Why on earth?
You saw it, didn't you? You saw the painting, didn't you? You entered my room without permission, and you saw the painting, didn't you? Angelic, you say? There's nothing angelic about that damned woman.
I scrambled to make some excuse, but nothing would come out of my mouth. All I could do was tremble.
Why did you enter my chambers? What were you looking for? Answer me.
My mouth wouldn't move properly. I couldn't make my voice come out. It was like I wasn't even in my own body anymore. The wisps of air that were drawn into my lungs were expelled as hoarse gasps. My breaths were shallow and rapid. I was inhaling, but I wasn't getting any air. I was terrified. Of his eyes, his voice, his feelings, the knife he was holding up to me. The terrible past he was chained to. The man's voice. The man's very flesh. Terrified me.
What were you trying to find, and what were you planning to do with it? Answer me. Another thing you refused to tell me.
Oh no, I'm trying. Nothing's coming out of my mouth, though. Everything's so bright. And I can't catch my breath. I can't breathe.
That's fine, though. You don't have to tell me. I have a pretty good idea.
An idea? What do you mean?
Money is what brought you to the Boulanger estate. It is what brought you to me, too. There are countless people who would love to see that house fall. And the noble family fears nothing more than to see it. You were a prisoner, approached by someone scheming the Boulanger's downfall.
No.
And as it just so happens, the Boulangers have a very unfortunate secret, one they are quite desperate to keep under wraps. Me. Someone suspected I might still be alive, so they sent you to dig up information about me. My very existence threatens to tear down that house. The cursed youngest son of the Boulanger family. Michel made a pact with the devil, who is supposed to be dead, but is very much alive. You sweet-talked your way into that house, and into information about me and my present situation. And you meant to trade that information for money. I bet whoever it was put quite a handsome price on it, too. Or maybe the one plotting to ruin the Boulanger family is you.
No! No, that's not true!
Then enlighten me.
Please, hear me out. I didn't know anything about you. I wasn't sniffing around or trying to bring you harm in any way.
Then tell me, if that's not the reason you wormed your way into the Bollinger estate, and that's not what you're doing here, then tell me what is. Tell me why you came to this mansion.
You want me to tell you about that? No way. That's asking way too much.
Tell me.
I swear, I haven't done anything to wrong you. I simply wanted to make our life together a little more comfortable. To bring some warmth to this frigid relationship we have. That's the only reason I wanted to find out more about you.
I must assume I'm right then, Giselle.
You must tell him he's wrong. I must tell him I mean no harm. I can't say anything.
Merchant's daughter became an abigail at a noble house. Could you come up with a more obvious lie?
Your father's the one who... Wait. How does he know that I'm from a merchant family?
You look perplexed. I may be imprisoned in this house, not free to move about as I please, but I have my ways. I know everything.
Everything? And he knows about that too?
Oh yes, I do know.
Don't.
In your quest for money.
Don't say it.
You slept with my father.
In that moment, Michaud plunged his knife into my heart. He carved through my chest with those words, causing me to completely lose control of myself. In a panicked frenzy, probably screaming all the way, I knocked the man aside. Ran. I could hear a clap of thunder in the distance. Oh, how I wished a bolt of lightning would come crashing down upon me. Maybe if God burned my tainted flesh with a divine thunderbolt, it would get rid of some of the filth. The jagged streaks of light cascading across the dark clouds did not strike me, and created restless grumbles in the sky. Why? I knew that if I fled that mansion, I would likely be causing trouble for my mom and sister. But I was helpless to stop myself. All I could do was run from all that threatened me, with no regard for the consequences. Before long, small droplets of rain began falling, which soon grew heavy enough to penetrate the forest canopy and reach the ground where I stood. The downpour drowned out my tears and my cries. Because I had rushed from the mansion without putting on a cloak, which cold winter droplets stung bitterly against my flesh. But the bite of the rain was like a warm embrace compared to what I had been through. Michelle had spoken the truth. As much as I wanted to deny it, to avert my eyes, reality was forever engraved in his body. No, I don't want to think about it! I had no say in the matter. Get out of my head!
Come over here, Giselle.
Okay, may I ask why you asked me here so late at night, Master?
Oh, I just wanted to have a little chat. Care for some wine? Come closer and I'll pour you a glass. I had this wine imported from up north. They use very hard water and like it rather tart, so it leaves quite the lasting impression on your tongue. And yet it goes down so easily you just can't seem to stop. What do you say? Have a sip. Or does your expertise as a trader allow you to evaluate a wine's quality without tasting it?
No, but,
Please, Giselle, don't trample all over my good graces.
Very well then. I will have a sip, master, but no more.
Have you ever considered growing out your hair?
Having long hair made it difficult to do my job.
You are not a merchant anymore, though. You deserve to look like the woman you truly are. I have no doubt longer hair would accentuate your natural beauty. It's a gorgeous shade of black, so deep a man could get lost in it for years. It would contrast the color of your skin fabulously. Highlight your eyes, your cheekbones, your nape, your shoulders, and your chest.
I should get going.
Oh, but we're not done talking yet.
I would not want a lack of sleep to interfere with my ability to work tomorrow. Thank you very much for the wine. It was delicious.
No need to be so cold-hearted now. From the moment I first laid eyes on you.
Master! That's enough fooling around for one night.
Now, don't be afraid. I wouldn't do anything to hurt you. I simply want to express my love.
Let go of me! I only came here to work, nothing more.
The first time I saw you, I thought it would be a tragic waste to leave you to wither away working at some little street-side shop.
Stop!
You can't tell me you didn't know a merchant girl had no place in a house like this, even as a servant. There's only one reason you would be allowed here.
No, I swear it never even crossed my mind.
It would seem you're even more innocent than you look. But you figured it out all by now, haven't you?
No, let go of me! Stop this!
Keep your voice down. Do not shout, Giselle. If anyone were to find out about this, you would be the one shouldering the consequences, not me.
But
You're a maid, and I'm the master of the house. Whose word do you think holds more weight? Don't worry, I won't do anything to hurt you. I promise your family will be exceptionally well taken care of. Your mother will have the comfortable life you always wanted for her. But you know what will happen if you raise a fuss and make a fool of yourself. Not only will your family not get any of our money, and not only will your sister not get to marry, you'll all spend the rest of your lives on the streets.
how could you be so cruel? This is blackmail!
Blackmail? For a merchant's daughter, you don't know much about trade, do you? Then let me give you a little lesson about market value. The goods you're after, Giselle, are not cheap. Understand? Now, let me see that beautiful body of yours.
He was an older man, so I hadn't expected him to be very strong. But I couldn't break free of his grip, and I found myself entirely at his mercy. Beneath the gaudy outfits lay a hungry beast, and I was seeing the creature's true colors for the first time that day. The aging man ran his disgusting, slobbery tongue across my exposed skin. Everything he placed his hands upon withered away. Every piece of flesh he pressed his lips against putrefied, rotted, decayed, rankled. I trembled in revulsion, at which the man laughed, seemingly interpreting it as something else. I wondered what kind of place hell was. If hell's wardens only flayed and carved their prisoners, I would have preferred that instead. I would have rather been sliced into tiny little chunks and cast into the hellfire. I would have chosen eternal torment over being touched by this man another second. But I didn't get to choose my hell. Eventually, the man forced open the gates I had been holding fast and spread his festering death inside me.
Listen to me, Giselle. It is in both of our best interests to keep this between the two of us. If you can do that, I'll continue to do good by you and your family. Oh, don't look at me like that, please. I'm thrilled to have you here in this house, Giselle. She has long since lost her mind, after all. It's torture just being in the same room. And my sons, they hardly ever come home. But you, Giselle, you give color to my dull life. You make it exciting once again. Now go on back to your room. I'll be waiting here at the same time next week.
I couldn't escape from that man's grasp. Not when he used my family against me. Some weeks I would just not go to his chambers, my one feeble means of resistance. But when I did that, he would send another Abigail to come find me the next day. I couldn't ignore his summons when he got other people involved. And then, when the two of us were alone, the mask would come off, and he would discipline me for not showing up before taking care of his usual business. On good days, he would leave bruises in inconspicuous places, my abdomen, my inner thighs. But he went as far as carving a word into my skin with a knife. Harlot. That was why I was afraid of knives. That was why I was afraid of men shouting. I wasn't even sure what to regret anymore. I was in far too deep. There was no turning back the clock. I even considered taking my own life on more than one occasion, but every time the thought crossed my mind, happy memories came with it. Back when it was just the three of us girls in the shop. Life may not have been easy, but it was never dull either. I didn't want to end up in my life at its absolute lowest point. I wanted, if just temporarily, to go back to the way things were back then. That objective was the only thing that allowed me to keep going. When I was in his presence, I tried to convince myself I was merely an object. I had no emotions, so he couldn't hurt me. I was merely a vessel, a construct of flesh and bones. His hands couldn't reach my heart, for it was not connected to my body. Doing that made it a little easier to bear, but the reality was, it was impossible to completely sever my heart from my body. You're Giselle, aren't you? One day, the mistress of the estate stopped me in the halls. She had supposedly once been quite beautiful, but now she was only haggard and bony. Her skin dry, her eyes sunken, her hair faded and stripped of its luster, her head down, her cracked lips barely moving as she spoke. Age didn't appear to be the only thing working its merciless magic on her either. There seemed to be something eating away at her from the inside, too. Something that could burst at the lightest touch. Yes, I am Giselle. Is there something I can do for you? The mistress rarely ever left her chambers. I had been told it had been years since she attended family supper. So what would bring her to come looking for someone like me? What? I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. You're having relations with my husband, aren't you? You are, aren't you? Madam.
You wretched creature! She was telling me the truth! One of my trusty maids caught a glimpse of you through a crack in the door. She saw you with him, you filthy rat! You seduced my husband. You devil! You conniving witch! You don't get it, do you? You don't realize how grievous your sin is, do you? Anyone restrain this girl! She's a demon! A devil! Tie her up and hand her over to the clergy! No, that won't be enough! Witch, you have to burn her bones, scatter the ashes, or she'll just come back to life! Yes, execute her! Kill this woman, burn the witch! Seize the piece she's stolen from me! Cursed. It's cursed! This house is cursed! Not only has it taken away my daughter, but now it's trying to take away my husband. Oh God, please shine thy cleansing light upon this house. I knew it would be a waste of breath trying to talk to her. She was not of sound mind. There was madness in her eyes. I didn't even have to make a fuss about it. It happened all on its own. If there was no way around it, and I should have just done it myself after the first time. I didn't have the energy to argue with her, or cry, or shout.
Before long, a crowd began to form around me and the sobbing mistress, and in it stood him. I assumed he would just stand back and watch, but much to my surprise, he stepped in with an embarrassed look on his face to try to settle his wife down and convince her not to have me executed. Maybe he did have a heart after all, or maybe he just wanted to save face. Regardless, instead of being burned at the stake, it was decided I would be sent away to some remote forest. One of the previous Bollinger family heads had purchased a mansion there long ago, but it had been abandoned because of the stories people told about it. They said a cursed witch dwelled in the house. She had returned to life after being executed, and now sulked about in the darkness. It was the perfect place to banish a sinner. And so, accused of adultery, I was in a carriage on my way out of the capital the next day. Oh, thank you very much. I haven't trained formally for voice acting. I did take vocal training for singing for a long time, though. I think that's probably what has helped. But I've been interested in voice acting for, like, a very long time. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That's very, very appreciated. I'm trying to come up with a better word than appreciated, but my brain is a little dead, so please forgive me, but genuinely, it means a lot. I forget if I read this line. And so, accused of adultery, I was in a carriage on my way out of the capital the next day. I hope my mom and sister are all right. The two of them will believe in me, even if no one else does. The wooden wheels turned, carrying me away to that cursed mansion. Just a silent coachman and a single sullied passenger. Looking out through the window, I could see the city walls slowly fading into the distance behind us. I doubted I would ever set foot in this land again. Ever cross the Grand Pont again. It was a saddening reality, but at the same time, I felt a surge of relief. I had finally escaped from that house. I had finally escaped from that man. A sense of freedom slightly lessened the weight of everything else I was feeling. A good while after we left the capital, the coachman handed me a letter. On the sheet of parchment was a rather startling revelation. There was someone else already living at the house where I was to reside, the Bollinger's youngest child. But the letter did not say why he had been sent to the cursed mansion, only that he was there. Beyond that, the letter made only a single request: that I look after him and not ask any questions. Giselle, I love you, but you failed that second part real hard. You asked, like, every question you could. So I'm not just being sent off to the middle of nowhere. I still have work to do. If I look after whoever's at the mansion, then they'll do the same for my family? I don't have much to say in the matter either way, I suppose. Yes, I sing. Not like professionally, but I've been trained classically, and have been singing seriously, like, for a while. And, like, choirs and stuff. Maybe someday I'll do vocal covers again, but it's a little hard to do recordings for singing in an apartment. It's much easier to do these voice acting things, because I can limit myself a little more easily in speaking than I can in singing. So. The carriage rattled and shook as it traversed the stony path, and bouncing round inside it, I resolved to take back my life. The peace I had once known, the cheerfulness I had lost. And to do so, I would forget. Lock away my memories. Bury every terrible thing that had happened to me. Cast aside those memories and find my smile once more. I have no idea who I'm going to find there, but they couldn't possibly do anything worse to me. I'll greet them with a smile, and do my best to build up a decent relationship with them. I figured since the both of us had been banished to the same cursed mansion, there would probably be other things we had in common. And so, I would forget it all, and get my life back. Get my smile back. And that was everything that led up to me arriving at the mansion. All the wounds I never wanted to open again. didn't want to think about that. I've been trying so hard to forget about it. I wanted to forget all about it. So why? Why did you have to make me remember? All I did was believe that we could make things work.
Oh, yes. I appreciate you retracting that for the spoiler, but, I do agree with what you said. That is my favorite character as well.
Why? How could you? God, I can't say it anymore! Once the memories had broken free, they all flooded back with perfect clarity. Exactly how he ran his hands across me. Exactly where he hit me. Where he cut me. Like I was going through it again, this very moment. The rain was cooling me down on the outside, but so much nauseating heat had built up in my gut. I vomited all over the ground. I threw up, and I threw up, and I threw up until there was nothing left but bile. And when I had nothing left to expel, the strength evacuated from my knees, and I collapsed. I didn't know if everything was blurry because of the rain, because my eyes had decided they were done looking at anything. The whole world twisted before me. Michelle's no different. My attempts to get close to him, to always keep a smile on.
That's okay, thank you for retracting it, I appreciate it. But I agree with you.
It was all a waste. The look in his eyes was terrifying. Like he didn't believe in anything at all. So he probably wouldn't have believed me if I had told him the truth. If he's convinced I have an ulterior motive, then there's probably no changing his mind. Such a cold rain. If I lie down here and go to sleep, I wonder if all the warmth will eventually drain from my body. And then I'll decompose, become part of the earth. You know, that might actually be nice. I'd like that. I'd always thought I didn't want to die, that I wanted to go back to the way things were. But who cares anymore? I did my best after all, and that still got me nowhere. Cheerful Giselle. It was all just a farce. When I'm dead, all my worry for my mom and sister will fade away with me. Oh God, I doubt you have a place for me on high. I am, after all, an unclean woman, and I've given up on living altogether. But even if I can't get into heaven, that's okay. I want release. The rain pitter-pattered down through the leaves overhead, chilling my skin. The cold spread through my flesh and into my bones, my heart and my lungs and stomach, freezing me like a block of ice. My consciousness drifted away from me, and the world slipped through my fingers. More than fear, I felt relief. Utter black. And that, I was sure, was the end of me.
Yeah, Giselle really deserves better. Like almost everybody in this does, except a couple people don't. They got exactly what they deserved.
And that, I was sure, was the end of me.
I am, even now, putting her through a harrowing experience. digging up the memories she locked away, the past she wanted to pretend never happened, and laying it all out before her once more. But I must get her back to who she once was, even if it means forcing her to endure this. Is that a typo? Oh my gosh. She must remember everything, because I need to know. Why did she become the maid? And what secrets does this house hold?
You were... Michelle.
Yes, my name is Michelle. I am not the white-haired girl. The person you were searching for was the man who once hurt you deeply. Me.
Why?
What was her why referring to? Why I hurt her? Or why I'm here? Or perhaps, why I didn't show up until now? Not having an answer for her, I clench her cold hands in mine. I wonder, were her hands this cold that night, too? There's still more we need to see, though. And it's still too soon for me to apologize. When she's gotten everything back, only then can I. Once she's reclaimed herself, that is when I must tell her. Now, let us return to our past. Our story has only just begun. No matter what we thought or what we desired, no matter what we lost or how much pain we suffered, we must not shut this door. Oh no, are you kidding? I love Jacopo. But he did terrible things, but I love Jacopo. He's in my top 3. Perfect darkness embraces us once more. I can see nothing, not even the woman beside me. But I shall not let go of her hand. I do not want her to slip away from me. I do not want to lose her. How can you not love Jacopo? On that note, this is where I'm going to stop for today. Because I can hear my voice going. I love Jacopo. Unapologetically. He's the one who needs to apologize. Oh, I love that butthole so much. Next week, stream will start at 6 as per usual. I just had something for work today, so I was there a little later, and had to hurry back and shove food in my mouth and then start this. Tomorrow, Bioshock, 6 p.m. Yeah, I'm really excited to continue this door. It's very wonderful. I promise it gets better. It's not completely gloomy the whole time. There is a shred of joy, or 2, or 3. Yeah. Thank you again. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening/day. Please stay safe. And, yeah. See you later. See you next week.